Hello everyone, today I'll be narrating 3 new creepyposts that I found off of the Let's Not Meet subreddit. Liking this video and subscribing to my channel helps me a lot. After you've heard these stories, let me know what you think of them in the comments below. But without further ado, let's dive straight into their experiences.
These are their stories.
This story dates back to about a year and a half ago when my daughter was around 4 months old. I'm 26 years old. I had just moved with my then SO to a dangerous part of town, but the street we moved to wasn't too bad. Everyone knows their neighbors and everyone seems to get along. Well, since everyone in the neighborhood chats with each other, one of my neighbors warned my SO and I about a homeless woman that parks her van on the street and harasses everyone who walks by her car, and to try and avoid her as best as possible. Side note, parking in this town is street parking only, no reserved parking spots. This'll have significance later. I thought, that's one small downside of living here, along with the street parking. Not that big of a deal as long as I avoid her, right? Wrong. So the next day after our neighbor's warning, after returning home from a long day at work and picking up my infant daughter, homeless lady, really slender, wearing what appeared to be newish clothes, breath reeking of something foul, is walking up to the left side of the sidewalk screaming up a storm at these teenage kids who look terrified. The teenagers aren't engaging her, just keep walking and looking at each other with uncertainty. I stay on the right side of the sidewalk even though I knew I'd have to cross the small street to the left where my apartment was located. My daughter wakes up from her nap in my arms and begins to coo. Homeless lady spots me crossing the street with my purse, work bag, my baby, her baby bag, and decided it's a good idea to come up and chat me up about her conspiracy theories as I'm walking up to my apartment. Fine, no big deal. At least she's not bothering the kids anymore. Then as I'm fumbling to get my keys to open the gate that leads to my complex, she asked for money. I told her the truth, I'm sorry but I don't carry cash on me. All the while trying to hold onto my baby, find my keys, hold my bags. Her response, stuck up lady. And then she continues muttering under her breath, which I must repeat was bad, and starts harassing more kids down the block. A couple months go by and she continuously comes up to harass me, as if she doesn't recall who I am every single day. Every day I politely apologize and say I need to get home, or I don't have any money, still, or I simply don't have time to chat right now. Every answer I gave her was met with an insult both directly and under her breath. At this point, I am still not concerned. I've always had a soft spot for the homeless, and I am aware that this lady has severe mental illness. I always apologize for not having money to give, even through the insults. One night, around midnight, my daughter wakes up crying horribly. My SO and I take her temperature, 103 fever. I tell him it's time to take her to the emergency room immediately before it gets worse. We gather everything up, and I gently take her from bed and lay her against my chest. She's so helpless, weak, burning hot, and whimpering terribly. I still want to tear up thinking about it to this day. So as we walk out of the apartment, my SO says he will run down 3 blocks to grab the car. Remember, it's all street parking, so we often had to park blocks away. I say okay, I'll stand in front of the apartment so he could just pick us up and we can book it to the ER. Wrong choice. I watched as he ran all the way down the street and turned the corner out of sight. Then I look back at my baby and start rocking and shushing her, so that maybe she could get a little bit of sleep/rest before being up at the hospital all night. Moments later, when I look up, homeless lady walks around the same corner that SO just ran around and makes a beeline straight towards me. I get a little uneasy as I have a sick baby in my hands, but maybe she'll leave me alone this time, right? Nope, that was wishful thinking to the max. I'll label homeless lady as HL and me as me. Homeless lady, and a voice loud enough to wake up the entire block. Oh hey there sis, daddy just told me that baby's done sick and she needs a healer. Me, still trying to gently rock my baby as she startled back awake and wondering why he told this lady about my baby being sick. What? Sorry? Homeless lady, I'm a healer. My mama and I have been healers since birth. Give me that baby. Me, still trying to give her the benefit of the doubt, knowing she's mentally ill. Sorry, I'm waiting on her dad to bring the car around so we can take her to the hospital. Can you keep your voice down? She's trying to sleep. Homeless lady, nah girl, I'm a healer. Didn't you hear me? I done said I was a healer. You know what a healer is, don't you? Give me that baby. Now at this point, she reached out and put her incredibly dirty hands on my daughter's leg/foot and wouldn't let go. Me, excuse me, let her go now. Homeless lady, give me that baby. Me, she's very sick, you're waking her up. Stop. Her, let me heal her. Me, if you don't let go right now, I will kill you. It was at this point that she and I locked eye contact, and her facial expression was what I can only describe as the most terrifying, evil look a person can give, with her eyes and smile widening with every passing second. She then broke out in a laugh so loud and terrifying that I can't believe I didn't piss myself. By this time, my daughter was crying hysterically. My internal dialogue went something like this: "Where is SO? I'm gonna have to set my sick infant daughter on the ground and beat this lady up just to get her to not kidnap my kid." It also crossed my mind that if I did that, I'd probably be the one arrested. Like a Hail Mary, my SO comes around the corner in the car and I reiterate to the lady that my SO is now here, and if she doesn't stop harassing me, I will kill her. This finally struck some chord inside her brain, and she took off running down the street, cursing profanities very loudly. My daughter's cry has me in tears too after being yanked so hard by this lady. I still wonder what could have happened if she yanked hard enough to take my sick daughter. My SO ended up admitting that he felt bad for her, so he told her that our baby was sick, and even struck up a conversation with her about it. All the while his daughter and I were waiting outside past midnight alone in a bad area for him. Needless to say, he's now my ex. He even later laughed about the entire thing and told me I was exaggerating and she was harmless. He also still struck up regular conversations with the woman after that anytime he'd see her, and it infuriated me. I don't think anyone who would have seen the look in this woman's face would label her as harmless. She looked very much like she was ready to harm. From 2006 to 2011, I worked in the electronics department at the local Walmart in the small city I lived in. Through those 5 years I had worked there, I had plenty of creepy encounters with strange customers, especially considering the state hospital was directly across the road. This story isn't just a regular old creepy encounter, but something that would lead me to being stalked for nearly a year. It all started in 2010 on a night I was working second shift. I was doing my end of shift ritual when a woman in her late 40s interrupted me. She was with a little girl no more than 3 or 4 years old. "Excuse me, I need help with my cell phone." She spoke softly and proceeded to tell me her problem. I need to turn my phone into a straight talk phone. The girl earlier said you could do it. I said, "Sure, let me see what I can do." She handed me a 6-year-old phone from Verizon, and I knew as soon as I saw it I wouldn't be able to do what she wanted. I explained that she would have to buy a new phone from Straight Talk and transfer her old number. Basic stuff really. Now, I always took my job seriously and held myself to the highest standard of customer service. I did nothing to actually piss off this lady, but sure as it is, she was pissed. Why would I buy a new phone? I already have one. She starts screaming at the top of her lungs. Her claims of me upselling her and being a corporate goon. I finally managed to defuse the situation, and as she left the apartment she gives me the classic, "You'll never get a job in this town again." As I'm getting ready to leave my shift, my manager stops me and tells me I got a complaint at customer service from a lady claiming I swore at her granddaughter. Apparently I told her to screw off. I explained what happened and he just laughed it off. My managers knew it was very unlike me to say anything like that to a customer. I wish the story ended there. For the next several weeks I would get complaints about things I'd never done, sometimes even on my days off. I would come into questions from management nearly every day. It was complaints ranging from me being rude to a customer all the way to me doing drugs in the parking lot on break. All these complaints were coming from 2 women. As it turned out, it was the cell phone lady and her adult daughter. It turns out they have even been scoping out my work schedule and started coming in nearly every day. They would walk through electronics to make sure they saw me, and later that night I would have a complaint. This happened for months. It happened so much management deemed her, my name, favorite customer. To be honest, I didn't care much. I even thought it was pretty funny. I never got in trouble and everyone knew these ladies and just blew it off. I started caring when she took it to a new level. She started to follow me around. I would see her when I was around town. She made it clear she knew where I lived and would regularly walk by my house. I would see her standing out front just looking at my place. I began getting complaints to the city about my property, grass too tall, the old shed in my yard, my fire pit, basically everything. She even found out my girlfriend's name and began complaining at her job. I knew it was her. She would make it so clear that she was following me. Sometimes she would stop in and ask me questions at work and act like the nicest customer. A few times she asked me things like, "How's your girlfriend?" or my favorite, "How can you afford that big house on your little Walmart wage?" For about 7 months she stalked and slandered me. I started telling her I knew what she was doing and to stop. But she played it off. I couldn't report her. She never once threatened me. She was just making my life hard. By this time, everyone in my life knew about this woman. One night, I'm grabbing dinner with my friends from work and we're joking about it when someone says, "What if you just counter stalk her?" At first, I thought it was a terrible idea, but this convinced me it would work and they would all help me. So we hatched a plan. It went as follows: find her job, find her name and address, make complaints in the same manner as her, find out all the rumors she told about me, make it clear that we know, show her that we have numbers. coworkers. I found out her information easily enough. Turns out she didn't live anywhere near me. I was even friends with a few of her coworkers. They would keep me informed on crazy stuff she said about me and even told her to stop. We began doing exactly what she was doing to me. We did this for about 4 months. The more we dug into her life, the more I found out about how obsessed she was over getting me in trouble. She had claimed that I assaulted her. She urged others to report me and follow me. She told police I was a potential drug dealer. Eventually we won though. She started putting together that there were 6 of us digging into her life and asking questions about her. My last month at work I didn't get a single complaint. In fact, I never even saw her anymore. The day after I quit though, I heard she was in the store complaining about a new person after asking one of the managers why I quit. I'll honestly never understand why she was so bent on destroying me. I just told her to buy a $20 prepaid phone. I work about a mile from my house, in a pretty small town, 100,000 people-ish, spread out. I grew up in one of the largest cities in the States, so living here has been a bit of a culture shock. It's very easily accessible by walking, so I never drive. About half a year ago, I finished work around 1 AM. Nobody is really out past 8 PM here. A huge shock coming from a big city, so the park I walked through was utterly deserted. I live in one of the safest countries in the world, not America anymore, so it's easy to forget just how vulnerable I still am. I honestly didn't feel uncomfortable at any point in my walk until I rounded the corner past some basketball courts nearby my house. I was still about 2 minutes away from home, and this stretch of my walk was completely dark. The moon was massive that night. While I had welcomed its light at the beginning of my journey, in the absence of streetlights, it actually made things look pretty eerie. I had walked this path hundreds of times, but tonight something felt off. I'm not a fearful person in any sense of the word, but I was really on edge suddenly. Then I saw it, a van in the parking lot next to the courts, with its side door open. I picked up my pace and kept an eye on it. There are usually cars in that parking lot. I live in a tourist town and backpackers often stay in their vehicles to save money. I'd never seen one with its door hanging open like that in the middle of the night though. I was so focused on the van that I missed the man walking out from the trees near the courts, until he was a mere 30 feet behind me. He was walking fast, and there was little doubt that he was heading straight towards me. I was at a loss for what my next action should be. Screaming wouldn't do much. I was still too far away from any residences. I usually carry a glass water bottle with me for protection. We have very strict laws on weapons, but had left it at work that night. My phone was dead. Everything I knew better than to do, I'd done. I hesitated running on the off chance that he didn't mean to act sketchy. I also knew I couldn't outrun him. I saw a little dark blur darting across the library parking lot at the back of the courts. It didn't even register to me what it was. The whole situation was so surreal. The guy was behind me now, and judging by his footsteps, he hadn't veered course. I quickened my pace, felt out my keys in my purse, and slipped them in between my fingers. I heard a slight jingling noise, and everything suddenly made sense. The blur was Apollo, the large black cat that often walked me home on the stretch after the park. Tonight, he was doing that weird cat run, where they get really low to the ground with their ears back. I had an impression that he was angry, but he was moving too fast for me to see his face properly as he rushed past me. I kept walking, but the heavy footsteps were retreating now. I didn't dare look back, and kept moving forward quickly. Apollo was suddenly by my side, still staying low to the ground and stopping every few feet to look behind him and hiss. Then he would do that weird cat run to catch up with me. He walked the whole way home with me, as he had done so many times, but I'd never seen him act like that. As we neared my gate, he visibly relaxed and flopped on his back. I coaxed him inside the gate before giving him some massive hugs and head bumps. I stopped walking home by myself at night and still saw my sweet little cat friend often. I never saw him behave that way again though. Apollo moved away 3 months ago. I still miss my little buddy and often think about how strange that night was. I wish I'd turn around to see him chase the guy off. I've heard so many stories about dogs protecting people, but rarely about cats. Alright, so that's it. Hope you enjoyed this video. If you did, consider liking this video and subscribing to my channel. Let me know what you thought of these stories in the comments below. But as always,
Have a nice day.